I'm Ashley Speller with Northeast ISD Communications. Today, I'm excited to speak with Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Anthony Jarrett. He'll be answering many of the questions we've been hearing from you in regards to the upcoming school year. Welcome, Anthony.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for being here. So, we know that in August, schools will be exclusively online for the first 3 weeks. Can you explain what that means and the options that parents have for virtual learning?
Sure. So as many families already know, we've basically been put in a position where we're having to open schools in a virtual space. As we got this information that schools would open in a virtual space for the first 3 weeks, we started to design around the intent of trying to create, as much as we possibly can, a real-world learning environment for our kids. And so we came up with two different forms of learning. One form is synchronous learning, the other form is asynchronous. And so in a synchronous environment, our hope is to try to take kids as they're learning from home and have direct contact with their teacher, really follow a very tight schedule where kids are learning, they're engaged, they're able to collaborate, they're able to work independently. But all that being said, we also want to keep in mind that screen time has to be limited. And so as we tried to design this virtual space, we still looked at in person what that could look like, but then in virtual, and so maintaining that integrity of public education. We paused for a second to say, but what about the parents who have to work and they need to be at home with young children in order for them to navigate this learning environment? And so what we did is came up with an asynchronous approach in which we'll record the lessons for the family so they can actually, when they get home and they feel like they're in a space where they can sit down with their kiddo and facilitate that environment. Again, we don't want them teaching, we just want them to facilitate.
How many years have you been in education and what does it mean to you?
I've been in education for 20 years. You learn a lot about how important it is to develop an environment where kids can thrive and kids can be successful. And so we're hoping that under the circumstances of kids having to learn from home, that we've created an experience for kids so they can still get a quality education.
So you've got some great insight based on your experience. Which learning method do you recommend?
It's not just about academic learning, it's also about the social emotional learning. And so I highly recommend, of course, the synchronous environment because it's real time, it's real space, and again, kids can engage with their peers as close as it can to as if they were in person.
We also had a parent write in asking about their child who receives special education services in NEISD. They want to know how that will work virtually.
Right.
Can you talk about what that will look like?
Yeah, so first of all, special ed kids are general ed kids first. And so before you can address the special ed kiddos' needs, you first need to make sure that the general education setting is established and in place. And so that was our first attempt. The second piece of it is that our office, special education office, is going to work extremely hard to make sure all the kids are receiving a free and appropriate education as it aligns to their IEPs. And so we're actually looking at IEPs right now, making sure that what can be done in a virtual space is being done.
So COVID-19 continues to really impact the way we all live and now learn. So we all had to adapt super quick back in March. Can you share how virtual learning in the fall is going to look a lot different than what students, teachers, and parents saw in the spring?
As we were confronted with a pretty quick turnaround, we felt like we did a pretty good job of trying to create resources for families to access during that time. But immediately during that time, we were already starting to design with the possibility that school may have to open up this way. So once the notification came out that we would go to a virtual learning environment for the first 3 weeks of school, we had a plan in place. And of course, we're going to continue to massage that plan and adjust that plan based on the feedback we get from teachers, from parents, and anyone else that we think is going to help make a better learning experience for our kiddos. But in the fall, our goal was to listen to what the parents said in the survey that went out, which one of the number one things that they said is that they wanted more face-to-face interaction and contact time with their child's teacher, which I totally agree with. And so we designed around that intent. Every grade level has a very intended schedule for that face-to-face time with the teacher, that direct instruction with a teacher. And so we're trying to simulate this virtual learning environment to mirror as much as possible an in-person environment.
So what about when kids do return to school? What will virtual learning look like then, and what options will parents have?
So when they come back, which we're excited to see that when that day comes, you know, kids are and families right now at this point, and again, it's constantly changing, but right now we're hoping that parents will still maintain that choice for the rest of the year. And so we very well may have half of our students who are attending in person and some of those kiddos and families who feel like virtual learning was best for them and they'll learn virtually. And so we're prepared to be able to offer both of those learning environments for our families.
Any final thoughts as we get closer to that first day of school? Any words of encouragement for parents?
Yeah, I think I just want parents to know that I think all of us are eager to get our kiddos back into the classroom, get our kids back into school as much as possible, and re-engage them into the learning environment that they were so used to. And so we want to make sure that parents understand to reach out to us. We want to hear from them. We want to know what we can do to make their learning experience better, considering the circumstances that we're all trying to work through.
Anthony Jarrett, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction at NEISD, thank you.
Thank you.